Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to Dr. Siti Nur Zahira and Encik Muhammad Afifi. We are from Group 50. We present about a study of intention of educational loan PTPTN among public university students in Malaysia. Next, I will present about Chapter 1, Background of Study. Okay, I will talk about background of study in Chapter 1. To ease the financial load on students at higher education institutions, the government has introduced several financial support programs. In Malaysia, there are two types of financial aid available, which are educational loans and scholarships for students from lower and middle-income families who want to pursue higher education. In 1997, the Malaysian government established PTPTN to give and manage loans to students pursue higher education, and it was a major source of financial aid. The scope of the PTPTN opens to all IPTs for students at all levels, including diploma, first degree, master's, doctorate, and professional course are qualified to apply for loans. As of February 2019, 56 billion has been provided to assist more than 3 million students in their pursuit of higher education. Apart from students who choose the PTPTN loan, they also can rely on scholarship from government or corporate institutions such as Maybank, MARA, CIMB, and others to continue their studies in higher education institutions. Next, in Chapter 1 is about problem statement. Global educational institutions are currently having to deal with the growing problem of student debt, as well as PTPTN debt repayment, also a major source of concern. The current economic and labour shortage makes repayment more difficult for students who took out loans and are now unable to repay them. Borrowers state a variety of reasons for not repaying, including a lack of employment, studies at higher and lower wage levels, and insufficient income. About 4,632 recipients have failed to pay back the loan, and out of those, 20 have taken court action. The Immigration Department has blacklisted 586,863 PTPTN borrowers who owe 11.6 billion. PTPTN is anticipated to require only 21 billion over the next 5 years due to 5 to 50% decline in the amount. For the next part in Chapter 1 is research question. For the first research question is what is the relationship between the borrower's attitude and their intention to repay their education loan? Second research question, what is the relationship between parental influence and their intention to repay their education loan? Third, what is the relationship between a borrower's financial behavior and their intention to repay their education loan? And last research question, what is the level of intention to repay their education loan? Next part is research objective. First objective, to study the relationship between the borrower's attitude and their intention to repay their education loan. Second, to study the relationship between parental influence and their intention to repay their education loan. Third, to study the relationship between a borrower's financial behavior and their intention to repay their education loan. And for the last research objective, to study the level of intention to repay their education loan. Okay, next, for scope of the study, we choose public higher education institution IPTA students from 20 universities in Malaysia who have completed or are about to receive their degree certificate. Next part is significance of study. Once policymakers identify the reasons for poor repayment intention, they can take several corrective interventions to increase loan repayment rates among Malaysian borrowers. Next, as a result, a greater loan repayment rate may be noticed and consequently more resources should be made available to local youngsters to help them enroll in higher education. That's all from me. I will pass to SYAMIMI.
Thank you, Aisyah. Now my turn to present the next subtopic in Chapter 1, which are definition of term and organization of the proposal. Alright, first we go through for the definition of term. First is intention. In Oxford Dictionary 2015, intention defined as a plan of purpose to do something when in previous study translated intention as a person's willingness to obtain something desired for future. However, in our study, we conclude that intention determined as willingness of students to repay the educational loans after graduation that influenced by attitude, parental influence, and financial behavior. Okay, next, educational loans related to student loan to help students pay expenses during higher education, for example, education fees, books, supplies, and living expenses. While in our study, educational loan refer to PTPTN loan that support financing students during studies by giving per semester. Lastly, PTPTN loan is one of the biggest companies that offers student loan and families among students. Okay, now the next slide is for chapter 2 that we will focus on literature review that discuss educational loans among public university. This study need to look at whether the student have intention to repay the loan and how the attitude, financial behavior and parental influence affected their plan to repay after graduation. In this chapter also, we will discuss underpin theory that we use and relevant information in previous study that also attached with research gap. Hypothesis statement and conceptual framework also we discuss in this chapter. Before we see the previous study theories, we need to know the Islamic and Maqasid Sharia perspective in repayment of the loan. In Islamic perspective, they define the Arabic words for dain and ain, which mean dain defined as a submissiveness or disgrace, but according to the Islamic jurisprudence, ain can be translated to loan, financial liability or monetary obligation. And based on Imam Shafi'i's opinion, the loan as a transfer ownership of property by the owner to another party, where the borrower must return the property as the term and condition that they agree, both parties agree to achieve mutual agree. And Islam practice the principle of ta'awun, meaning cooperation, where mutual help for both parties is needed. Next, Maqasid Sharia perspective. Maqasid Sharia main objective of Sharia. Maqasid Sharia also about do and don't in Islamic law that have three elements such as hajiyat, tasniyat, and daruriyat. Also have various situation about loans. For example, in daruriyat situation, where the person should take the debt because if the person does not take the debt, it can cause harm to the person's life. As we learn, daruriyat has five protection. First is din, naf, akal, mal, and nisab. However, for hajiyat and tasniyat situation, borrowing money or make loan is still permissible but discouraged because the situation still can tolerate. In simple word, in Islam, if a Muslim take a debt, the Muslim must repay the debt. Okay, next slide is underpin theory, which this theory usually being used in the attitude study to explain about the relationship of the factor that influence the intention to repay educational loan (PTPTN) among public university students. In TPB component, I will explain the theory first. First is attitude, and attitude refers to the strength of belief that the person has in certain behavior. Attitude parameter can be positive and negative response. And then subjective norm. Subjective norms refer to a person's perception and influence the behavior whether it approved or disapproved by others. And the perceived behavior control describe individual belief that they have control over certain factor which subsequently allow them to perform the behavior. And for perceived behavior control refer to support or barriers the performance of the behavior. Now I will explain the element that related in our study. Attitude measure the attitude toward behavior of student is related or not. If the student have a good attitude toward a particular behavior, and then the student will have high motivation to repay the educational loans. But if the student has a bad attitude toward behavior, the student will not have the intention to practice the behavior. And then subjective norm measure the parental behavior, whether it influence the student willingness to make a loan repayment. And then perceived behavior control relate to financial behavior in terms of it can be facilitating or be a barrier for students to repay the educational loans. Okay, next we move to the next slide is previous study. First independent variable is attitude. Attitude default key area of analyzing the difference between willingness to repay than that of ability to repay. According to Abu Bakar 2006, there are two components that refer to repayment. First is attitude and behavior. Besides that, Macmillan 2004 also affirmed that in his empirical study, the attitude is one of important factor influence the intention to repay of loan. Attitude also related to repayment, where most of respondents intend to repay the loan due to the awareness of their responsibility to repay the loan. In 2020, the previous researcher also agreed that repayment attitude have positive relationship. However, Shafina Ismail in 2011 stated that both positive and negative effect of attitude can be noticed on loan repayment and default rates. For example, in previous study conducted by Abu Bakar 2006 showed that respondents in general study have negative attitude to repay the loan and have wrong perception about loan. Therefore, such an unfavorable perspective will affect the loan repayment after graduation. Attitude is about planning ourselves from inside and relate to mindset, where some people want to be rich but need to change the concept. They want to be a rich person without any loan. Lastly, there are still gaps in attitude toward behavior studies that we not discuss truly and deeply in student attitude of the intention. Second IV is financial behavior. Financial behavior is a common factor that translates as the habit, practice, or attitude of a person toward his financial management. According to Hasibu 2018, financial behavior can be identified by how someone manages his saving, budget, cash flow, debt, investment, and other financial resources. This is how we manage our money, as in meaning of Ayatul Kursi say that all belong to him, whatever in the heaven or whatever on the earth. So, as a human, we act as trustee to manage the money in right way. In contrast, a study by Prihartono and Ansan Dimitra 2018, financial knowledge or education did not directly influence financial behavior for debt management, and it related into two categories of aspects of financial behavior, which are ethical and unethical aspects. For example, in a study done by Zainan and Ismail 2012, 12% of 186 respondents consisting of graduate students show unethical behavior where they avoid paying the educational loans. What we found is no previous study has discussed deeply about financial behavior related intention to repay educational loan by proven through focus group, interview and questionnaire survey to obtain the data. Lastly is parental behavior. Hardy 2020 stated that parental influence is defined as activities such as monitoring, attention, physical punishment and reasoning that can influence the child into two domains, which support and control. According to Parna 2019, a study of the mediation effect of the educational loan repayment model indicated that parents are the strongest mediate individual between the student attitude and the awareness of loan repayment difficult presented by the media. They also state that parental influence can be influenced by parent behavior, where the negative impact will contribute to the student debt management. Okay, this is how parents can influence their children's debt management, although it can affect positively or negative depending on parent knowledge, attitude, and behavior. After review on literature relating parental influence, most studies do not analyze the parental influence toward higher learning institutions. Students will freelance to repay educational loans. Next is dependent variable. Dependent variable is intention to repay educational loans. More than half of the respondents in a study by Hira, Anderson, and Peterson 2000 say that getting an education loan has improved their life. According to the same study, students who are unable to determine the total debt are more concerned about repaying loans. They also think that the size of the borrower loan will affect their decision to get married, have kids, and buy a new car. From the previous study, AZWAN 1991 claimed that one of the factors in predict actual behavior is intention. For instance, students who believe loan repayment mostly will be more likely to want to repay their loan.
Hi, okay, for the next slide, we are talking about conceptual framework. Okay, in the diagram above, there are two sides, independent variable and dependent variable. Okay, dependent variable of the study is the intention to repay PTPTN loan, and the other side is independent variable. Independent variable are attitude, financial behavior, and parental influence. Okay, for the chapter 2, the summary is focused on the underpinning, theory, previous study, hypothesis, and conceptual framework, which is made up of independent and dependent variable. Okay, next. The factor affecting the intention to repay PTPTN are attitude, financial behavior, and parental influence. Conceptual framework and hypothesis statement have also been included in this chapter. Hi, okay, next. This is chapter 3 and we will talking about research method. Okay, for the introduction, this chapter will discuss the research methodology used in collecting and analyzing data for the study. Next, in collecting data, there are qualitative data and quantitative data. Okay, for the qualitative research is when a social or human problems significant as seen by an individual or group can be explored or understood. Okay, for the quantitative research is to quantify the data gathering and analyzing procedure using method of statistical analysis to evaluate the connection between variable for quantitative data. Okay. Alright, next for the next slide, we are going to talk about research design. Okay, our group will choose quantitative research, and studies using quantitative research are based on statistics, which are typically brief, exact, accurate, and easy to comprehend. Okay, the effectiveness and rapidity of the quantitative method appeal to many researchers. Data processing technology allows for the quick data processing and analysis even with the large sample size. Hi, okay, next we are going to talk about data collection method. Okay, data collection method are the strategies and process used for data collection, which is the act of gathering information from every pertinent resource. Okay, next. The data collected will be examined, leveraged to verify or disprove research hypotheses and to reach decision on the topic of study. Okay. Method for gathering data. There are few of example of method of gathering data, which are experiment, survey, interview, observation, focus group, and secondary data analysis. The example for secondary data analysis are case study and literature review. Okay. In order to collect data for our study, we are going to choose questionnaire survey that will be distributed using Google Form. Hi, okay, next. We are going to talk about study population. Okay, the study target group are students who enroll in IPTEs in Malaysia. Okay, the total number of students are 157,868 of students. Okay, the total number of IPTEs in Malaysia are 20 public universities. And the resource from this study are Statistic Higher Education 2021. And because of the constraint to get the latest number of students in IPTEs, therefore, the study target group are population of students in 2021. Okay, next for this slide, we are going to talk about list of public universities. There are 20 of them, and public university are short form from IPTAs. Okay, there are 20 of them. Okay, the first one is University of Malaya, University Science Malaysia, USM, National University of Malaysia, UKM, University of Putra Malaysia, UPM, University of Technology Malaysia, UTM, University Utara Malaysia, UUM, International Islamic University Malaysia, UIAM, University of Malaysia Sarawak, UNIMAS, University Malaysia Sabah, UMS, University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, UUPSI, and Mara University of Technology, UITM, University Sultan Zainal Abidin, UNIZA, University Malaysia Terengganu, UMT, Islamic Science University of Malaysia, USIM, Tun Hussein University of Malaysia, UTHM, University Technical Malaysia Melaka, UTEM, University of Malaysia Pahang, UMP, University Malaysia Perlis, UNIMAP, University Malaysia Kelantan, UMK, and lastly, National Defence University of Malaysia, UPNM. That's all.
Is Malaysia Binti BHARUDIN. My number metric is 81B2879. I would like to continue in Chapter 3, Sample Size. The numbers of participants in research is known as the sample size. Sample size determination sample is an important step in data sampling. This study will be run 157,868 population. The table was created by Krejci and Morgan in 1971 to estimate the sample size for the variety of population and the numbers of respondents allocated based on the population. From this amount, this research required to 384 respondents to answer the questionnaire. Sampling technique. This type of study, also known as a quantitative research, uses probability sampling procedure, commonly referred to as a random. According Brown 2007, using the word random to describe probability sampling indicates that the population sample being chosen has a non-equal, just and non-zero chance of being chosen, ensure fairness across potential study participants. Probability sampling. In this sampling, each members of a population has the same probability to be selected as a sample. Research instrument development. In the context of studying factors affecting Malaysia's student repayment intention for PTPTN loans, quantitative data we collected using a questionnaire survey, which is include demographic profiles and relevant factors survey using questionnaire are popular among social science. Researchers, due to their effectiveness, time efficiency, and ability to gather information from a large numbers of respondents. Question A can be administered individually or through the post, allowing the respondent flexibility to choose the time and place for completion. Researchers need to ensure the question A characteristic, reliability, and validity consider factors such as cultural and environmental relevance. In the context of the study on repayment intention for education loans, the question A will cover demographic information for section A and explore independent factors section B until D related to loan repayment using Likert scale for data analysis. Measurement of the variable. To choose the best statistical method or test to apply while analyzing the data, the nominal scale evaluate the respondents' genders, age, race, marital status, level of education, and occupation. Next, ordinal scale is an order categorical data, sometimes referred to as a ranking data. Ordinal scales can be used in section E, which dependent variable, the intention to pay PTPTN, the linked scale will be used, while section B until D are about independent variable, which include element of attitude, financial behavior, and parental behavior will use the same scale. Using a Likert scale, respondents must identify themselves with a list of statements made about the stimulus project. On a 4-point scale, the response will be broken down into 4 categories. 1 for strongly disagree, 2 for disagree, 3 for agree, and 4 for strongly agree. Procedure for data analysis. Analysis data is a technique for processes data to find relevant information that may be used as a foundation for decision to address issue. After that, information was gathered through a survey given to 384 Malaysian students who had to pay loan education as a result of demographics, attitude, financial behavior, and parental influence. Descriptive analysis is a way for researchers and analysts to effectively understand and interpret the data. Descriptive analysis major objective is to present an easily understood and simple overview of the facts. This measure describes the middle or average of the data. The mean, median, and mode are the 3 most used measurements. Descriptive analysis is a branch of statistics that involves summarizing and presenting data in a meaningful way. Its main purpose is to describe the basic characteristics of dataset. Validity: a test, measurement, or research study occurred determines what it wants to measure or review. For the section A, demographic as age, gender, race, marital status, level of education, and occupations. For the section B is attitude, and section C is financial behavior, and for section D is parental behavior. For section E, desire to pay PTPTN. Pearson Coefficient Test. Pearson Coefficient coefficient is statistical measure used to assess the strength and direction of the linear relationship between two continuous variables. It provides a quantitative indication of the degree to which the variables are linearly related, and the research often employ this test to evaluate linearity in their investigations. Multiple linear regression (MLR) is a statistical modeling approach used in organizational research to examine the relationship between a dependent variable and two or more independent variables. It expands on the concept of simple linear regression by considering multiple predictors simultaneously. However, interpreting the MLR weights in a term of predicting contribution to the criteria can be challenging due to the correlation between predictors, multicollinearity. Reliability test: the pilot survey employed Crossback coefficient alpha to evaluate the reliability of the scales. Crossback alpha is a statistical measure that estimates the internal consistency and interrelatedness of a group of items or questions in a scales or instrument. It provides insight into the extent to which these items are correlated with each other. Pilot test: to evaluate the process for gathering data, the usability of the survey questions, and participants. A pilot test was conducted to assess participant recruitment techniques, survey question and usability, and data collection procedure. 30 sets of questionnaire will be sent to the target respondent for the pilot test. Data will be collected, entered into the statistical package for the social science SPSS program, and reliability evaluated after that. Finally, if any issue are found, the questionnaire survey will be revised in light of the pilot test result and redistributed for the actual data collection. Actual research often refers to the original study undertaken by the paper's author. It is the original inquiry or study that results in a new information, idea, or finding in a particular field of the study. This sort of study include gathering and analyzing data, conducting experiments, conducting surveys, or employing others methods to investigate a research issue or hypothesis. Summary: the researcher applied a quantitative research strategy for data collection in the study specially. However, despite a large study population of 157,868 students in Malaysia, the research opted for a smaller sample size of 384 respondents. This decision was made using a straightforward sampling technique to determine the appropriate sample size for the study.